Last presentation of the day. It's going to be a good one. I'd like to welcome to the stage Krystell Santamaria.
Yay, an applause. What happened? I know that this time is very, very, very hard, but we are going to have a good session here. We are going to talk about nature-based solution. Have you ever heard something about nature-based solutions? Who raised your hand? Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, a lot of people. That's fantastic. And who ever heard about nature-based solution and the humanitarian sector? A few. So this information that we are going to provide you, sorry? Okay, good, thank you, sorry. I'm very used to be downstairs. This information that we are going to provide you is our nature-based solution program along with the IFRC. This is the humanitarian sector bringing the science and the humanitarian perspective to increase resilience. So welcome to this session. Let me introduce our Undersecretary General, Jamila, that is going to introduce a few words on this amazing partnership that we have. Good.
Good afternoon, everyone. You know they saved the best for last, right? So thank you so much, Krystell, who's come all the way from Panama to be with us. So my name is Jamila. I'm with the International Federation of Red Cross and Red Crescent Societies, and we're based here in Geneva at headquarters. Well, about 5-6 years ago, in 2013, the Nature Conservancy and our Americas regional office, where Krystell works, started an interesting collaboration with Grenada and the Grenada Red Cross in support of the Nature Conservancy's project called At the Water's Edge. This partnership was gradually expanded in 2015 with a 5-year project with the Global Preparedness, Disaster Preparedness Center and the Asia Pacific Regional Office on coastal cities in Southeast Asia and the Pacific. More recently, a joint program called Resilient Islands in the Caribbean was set up with funding from the German government. So you can see there's been a really collaborative effort with many of our national societies. And for those who are not aware, the IFRC is a membership organization of 191 national societies around the world. So we are auxiliary to government, and our newest baby will be from Marshall Islands. So in 2018, in October last year, we signed a cooperation agreement. The plan is to work together for 10 years to strengthen vulnerable communities and ecosystem resilience through a risk management approach using nature-based solutions for risk reduction. So we will focus on 5 dimensions: on community-level programming, applying ecosystem-based solutions to climate and disaster risk management at the community level, where nature meets people. Partnerships is going to be key. Leveraging joint partnerships on disaster risk reduction and ecosystems climate adaptation. Resource mobilization, we will do this jointly. There's nothing better than to work collaboratively on this area. And we will be jointly representing the cause that we are fighting for, and the project and the program that we are trying to deliver at the regional and global level as well. And the global platform, of course, is one of the areas where we will be quite visible. Tonight, there will be a networking event at 7:30 p.m. at the Forum Geneva. Please come and join us, where we will have a session presenting our new collaboration. One of the biggest elements of partnerships like this is really organizational learning. How do we promote cross-learning and knowledge exchange from the nature sort of organizations, nature-focused organizations, to traditional humanitarian and development organizations like ours? So for us at the International Federation, it is absolutely crucial to work on ecosystem-based solutions in our disaster risk reduction and climate work. So we're excited about this partnership. We're looking forward to expand it in other regions and strengthening it. But more importantly, we want to share with you some real-life stories from where nature meets people, and that is in our national societies and the work we've done. So over back to you, Krystell.
Thank you so much. Hey, give an applause. Good. Fantastic. Have you ever thought how nature is related to you? I mean, it's not only to have a wonderful view when we do snorkeling, you know. There is also related to livelihood. It's also related to tourism. It's also related how disaster affects differently women's, children's, elderly, and how nature can protect that. Let's see a wonderful video that is called A Promise for Communities.
I promise to my children to take care of the land and the sea.
I promise to be a better mother.
That I'll have local food on the table every day for them.
I promise you that I will teach you what I know.
And to the younger women and to the girls, I promise that we will have our voice in conservation.
That I will use ecotourism to educate people to fight climate change.
My promise to my children is to never give up.
That I will continue to fight for your rights.
To fight climate change through reforestation and protection and preservation of our marine resources.
I promise to my children that I will continue to work for a sustainable future for them on the island of their birth.
And our islands will still be there to connect them to their identities and their values and their ancestors that were there before them.
Good. So, I'm not sure if you are aware that these sessions from our United States is called Bringing the Voice of Communities. So, guess what? We have our friend, Bertha, that she is a community leader that was involved in the implementation of the Nature-Based Solution Program in Micronesia. So she traveled a lot to be with us and share with us her experience. So let's give an applause for Bertha, please.
So, how nature linked to the community? Well, before I go on, I would like to briefly introduce you where is Micronesia. Micronesia is composed of 607 islands and atolls scattered across the North Pacific in the region called Micronesia. These islands are in the front line of climate change. They are in the pathway of typhoons, all these disasters that's happening around the world, they are vulnerable to it. So when we say they are vulnerable, we all know that their nature, the biodiversity that they highly depend on is vulnerable. Micronesia, which is a less developed country, depends so much on nature to survive. Their culture depends on nature. Their food security depends on nature. Their livelihood depends on nature. Their beliefs depend on nature. So they don't wait, with all these crises that they are facing, they don't wait for somebody to travel all the way to their islands and tell them what to do. But instead, they use their local knowledge. But then when we think of local knowledge, who has the knowledge? It is the indigenous people. It is the local community. And who passes down this knowledge? It is the women. In Micronesia, women are known to be inferior to men, but they are empowered in their own space. They are the teachers who passes down the local knowledge to their kids. They are the people who make sure that there is food on the table. They are also the people who make sure that there is sustainable livelihood for the household to survive. So these people are very vulnerable. Many of the resources that they depend on, like the taro patch, which is, taro is our staple food. These taro patches are intruded by salt water. So how can they sustain food security? They have to move upland to make sure that they provide the food for their children, and their husband. Water. Many of our water wells are also intruded with salt water. So it also put burdens on the women and the young girls. They have to travel far to get water. They also face other consequences such as domestic violence, because when we don't have water, then we cannot provide food, we cannot do laundry. And what happens? The spouse will get stressed because there's all these things that are not settled at the household, and they become victims of domestic violence. But then, saying that they use their local knowledge, today with all the changes that are happening in our islands, with all the environmental threats on the islands, we cannot only depend on our local knowledge. We need to integrate science in order to make this natural resource management effective. So, although we are scattered, we're out there, we work collaboratively a lot across the region, even internationally, partnering with TNC, the Nature Conservancy. So as you seen in the video in the beginning of the women showing the garden and the nursery, those are partnered project with Nature Conservancy. So Nature Conservancy have been providing the science side of this, finding ecosystem-based management to be effective in these islands. So yes, women are vulnerable. We see them as victims, but yet they are the first response to all these disasters, all these threats upon the community. Thank you.
So thank you, Bertha, for these brilliant words. And also it's a message for all of us to how to increase the resilience at community level and empower them to be the first at the front line in case of disaster. Let me introduce my colleague, Colleen Fernandez, a representative. He's going to be representing the Santamaria community in Indonesia. Santamaria. I've been practicing this name, sorry.
Hello. Good evening. Oh. No. Good evening. I know at 5 o'clock we really can't be calling this an Ignite stage. I mean, we look really tired, we look burnt out. But yeah, I won't torture you for long. So anyway, my name is Colleen Fernandez. I work for the Red Cross, the American Red Cross. And we worked with the Santamaria communities through the Indonesia Red Cross, Palang Merah, Indonesia, with them in Santamaria in terms of disaster risk reduction and building resilience. Now, we all know working in cities is not easy. It's a challenge. Like, we have challenges we have population growth, we have economic growth, we have land use planning unable to cope with the speed of population growth and economic growth. We see municipal budgets being reduced, being moved to other priorities, not in the great interest of the environment. We see wetlands, we see natural drainage systems, we see our green spaces being reduced, sacrificed for economic growth. Now, given all these dynamics, it's just so difficult to sell the idea of natural-based solutions. Now, when we're working with Santamaria and also in partnership with TNC, we will to work together and working with the group of stakeholders, especially at the municipal level, bringing in other key departments in, the environment department, bringing in the local branch of the PMI, because we know that they are one of the permanent institutions in that city who can drive that agenda. Now, multi-stakeholder platforms, working in coalitions is essential, especially in cities, because city systems are complex, city systems are diverse. Now, of course, we need to be bringing also the technical aspect, and that's where we look to TNC. Because they were able to use the data, they were able to work with a number of stakeholders in bringing that information in terms of the mangrove degradation, loss, which were causing in intrusion of water, which was causing in floods. And I think they did a fabulous job in using that data, putting in the layers and mapping it out. And we were able to see the loss of mangroves over years and also to see how it was bringing in more floods. And we have that data. And then the next step was, how do we use it? I think that was the tricky part. But then we also understand that people who are vulnerable can also be the best advocates and the champions to drive that cause. And that's really essential. So when we were able to take that data, that information, and sit with communities, PMI working with them, and simplify it, translate them, and to see that how this is impacting their lives, increasing disasters, we were able to get them to push for the case, to push let's not go into much of infrastructure, let us see whether we can restore the mangroves, and we were able to know where exactly we were able to restore. And because TNC was able to plot those points, that these are the potential areas where mangroves are essential to be grown, because this is also will check in terms of the floods, will also check in terms of the degradation. So I think those were really useful, and even though we finished working with them, I think I was speaking to wetlands earlier today, and they also will be continuing the work in the city of Semarang. And I think it's great because we need that continuity. We need an institution which brings people together, use the coalition approach, use the multi-stakeholder approach, and drive that agenda which is already there. So that's my brief sharing of the work there. Thank you.
Thank you, Colleen. And then I'm going to move a little bit for the Caribbean side. In the Caribbean, we have a lot of challenge. But have you heard like Bertha and Colleen and Dr. Jamila talking about this wonderful partnership? But if I put it in another words, when you are newly married and you are meeting your partners, that you have a relationship, but you need to start to get to know each other. So this was also the main part of our wonderful partnership, to get to know each other, to understand new words, to work together, to put all this knowledge so we can use this technical and scientific knowledge using the humanitarian perspective in order to build new tools, in order to improve our vulnerability and capacity assessment, in order to build new partnerships, new ways of collaboration. For example, Colleen just mentioned the 1 billion coalition, for example. Okay, but as a Red Cross, we understand how we advocate to governments, but how we engage other partners to do the same, how we use the technical information to elaborate a lot of such a data and information that can be used to increase resilience. And as you know, we have the roadmap to community resilience that help us to engage, connect, and enable communities to different environments. So this partnership helped us really to build some capacities at community level, to help national societies also to understand how to use nature-based solutions. Also, we are identifying new ways of collaboration and also to communicate the same technical information, but using the scientific point of view. So in Grenada, so we have this opportunity to have this project, and then now we have more than Grenada. We have Jamaica, Dominican Republic, and we are able to expand this program for more islands, and also to expand the collaboration between different regions around the world. So I'm going to introduce my colleague Rebecca from the Nature Conservancy to give us closing remarks.
Thank you. What can I say after that lineup? It was fantastic. It's a real pleasure to be here. This is something we've worked really hard toward, and it's involved a lot of people coming together. We're thrilled. I want just a walkaway to be a guest that this isn't just about us promoting our partnership, TNC and the Red Cross Network, but it's an invitation for all of you to join in some capacity. Our combined networks are extraordinary. We've got a lot of reach. We've got a lot of capacity with the science we're generating on the TNC side, and they also work in communities, and the experiences, our collective experiences, inform one another. Jamila said it very well earlier, that this is a journey where we're learning from each other, and I think of that as just the compelling case to make unconventional partnerships. Even if it causes a lot of brain damage on the way, you get to where you want to be. I think in terms of TNC, they're getting a lot of insight on what it means to understand vulnerability and to look at it from a different perspective. and thinking about women, for example, all that Bertha shared there, to really inform how TNC plans, the research it prioritizes, the ways that it implements programs, and how it informs its own partnerships, such as through the Global Mangrove Alliance, a fantastic thing you can all look up, that involves a lot of different conservation organizations that could benefit from this knowledge from the Red Cross Network. And then vice versa, I think it's clear that the science that TNC is generating with 600 or so scientists and over 60 years of experience, 72 countries, I mean, they have a lot to contribute to inform, to raise awareness around people's environment, to inform thinking and influence decision making, both at the highest policy levels all the way down to communities. So we're really excited. We invite you to join us in any capacity that you can and you're able to contribute. And that's it. Thank you so much for coming to our session. Thank you.